In this episode, we're going to discuss Keegan Kline's Google search for the gas station in Delphi the day of the murders, and how the FBI destroyed surveillance footage from the gas station. We're also going to discuss the incredibly, shockingly weird catfish murder case involving Indiana's Darin Schilmiller. Is there any possible connection to Delphi? Okay, let's go. A quick refresh on Keegan Kline. He's in jail and awaiting trial on child pornography type charges unrelated to the Delphi case. Kline created the fictional online character named Anthony Schatz and used this to contact underage girls, including Libby. In fact, Kline communicated with Libby that morning through this character. It's speculated that the girls may have thought they were meeting someone at the Monon High Bridge where they were abducted and killed. Police have not said that, so it's also possible the girls were simply there to hike the trail. The podcast called The Murder Sheet has had access to certain information that even police have confirmed. They reported that Kline Googled the Marathon gas station 3 miles from the bridge the morning of the murders. Police have not confirmed that. They also reported that the FBI visited the gas station sometime after the murder in order to take into possession the surveillance footage from that day. Here's where the story becomes exasperating, and depending on how you view what happened, deeply, deeply troubling. As anyone who follows this case knows, there are all kinds of crazy rabbit holes you can get sucked into. So depending on how comfortable you are molding hats out of tinfoil, you have to be careful. But no matter how careful you are, it's hard not to be bothered by this FBI thing. When we talk about rabbit holes, usually we're talking about things like conspiracies and cover-ups. I have a rule of thumb when it comes to conspiracy theories. The more people that need to be involved, the less likely the theory is to be true, because someone always talks. Someone gets into some other kind of trouble and they want to trade testimony on their fellow conspirators for a lighter sentence. In fact, Kline himself might be in such a situation right now. But conspiracies involving a lot of people are unlikely to hold together, especially if it involves a particularly heinous crime. That's why the 9/11 conspiracy theories about dynamited buildings and empty planes were insane. You're talking about something involving several hundreds of people, if not thousands. You'd never keep them all silent. I say all this just as a necessary precaution before discussing this case, because if the story about the FBI is true, it's stunning. According to the murder sheet, Indiana State Police asked the FBI to visit the station to collect the footage. They wanted to see if Kline is visible stopping there the day of the murders. The gas station employee said the agents tried to download the footage to a thumb drive, but for some technical reason could not. So the employee gave the FBI the hard drive, and they left with it. But there was some kind of mishap. The FBI destroyed the footage without viewing any of it, let alone saving it. It really leaves you with two possibilities, both of them extremely hard to fathom. The first possibility is that the FBI is so incompetent that they can't recover surveillance data from simple store equipment without destroying it. The second possibility is that the FBI, or at least these particular agents, are covering something up. Can you see why I don't want to go down that rabbit hole? I mean, I don't want to end up sounding like the faked moon landing people. I can't really fathom why the FBI would want to destroy this footage. I don't want to fathom it. You have to drag me kicking and screaming. But it really is an either-or situation, isn't it? Either they are shockingly incompetent, or they destroyed the footage on purpose. I'm not a tech guy, so if someone out there wants to set me straight on this, please do. Please. I want to be straightened out. It seems to me the FBI can recover almost anything on a drive. I remember looking into this a little back when Hillary, if you remember her, had her people use a thing called BleachBit to wipe her emails. Can I get a YouTube strike for saying something bad about Hillary? Anyway, Hillary's people used this program called BleachBit. If I remember right, this is how it works. When you delete a file from your hard drive, it's actually still there, all of it. The only way to actually remove it is to overwrite it with something else. A program like BleachBit writes over all the so-called empty space on your drive multiple times. I seem to remember the number 7, as in the program must write over the empty space, which is where the deleted files are, 7 times in order for it to be cleaned enough for that the FBI can't recover it. Again, I'm not a tech person, so I don't know. But I don't think it's easy to delete files in a way they can't be recovered. My guess is that it's just as hard to corrupt files in this way so they can't be recovered, not without physically damaging the hard drive. Hopefully, someone with more tech knowledge can set us straight. The question is it truly possible that the FBI could somehow corrupt this critical data in a way that it couldn't be recovered on the hard drive? If that is possible, how likely is it to happen? 1 in 10,000? 1 in a million? When we have that probability number, then we can ask the question, what is more likely? That the FBI corrupted the footage in such a way that it could never be recovered? Or that the FBI wiped that data on purpose for some reason? I want to repeat, the more people that need to be involved to make a conspiracy work, the less likely it is for it to take place. And I do believe that the vast majority of FBI agents are basically good people. It's not easy to qualify for the FBI, and you have to have a very squeaky clean record. The FBI draws from our best and brightest. Many of these guys went into the agency because of 9/11. They tend to be patriotic and care about the community. Sure, human beings are human beings, so maybe here and there an agent looks the other way on some petty corruption. And by now we're seeing that the FBI brass in Washington are pretty partisan to the point of abusing their power. But in Delphi, we're talking about the brutal murder of 2 little girls. I have a hard time picturing even the most partisan and corrupt agents or brass in Washington looking the other way on something like that. Even if this involved a powerful politician from their favorite political party, FBI brass wouldn't look the other way on a crime this monstrous. So what would it mean if the agents did intentionally delete this data? I've only reasoned it out this far. If the FBI agents did that, remember the rule of thumb about conspiracies. They can't involve a lot of people. So if you're willing to entertain speculations on why the agents would do this, I recommend limiting your theories to an involvement of a small handful of people. I'm really not comfortable saying much more. I mean, who wants a tax audit, right? Or maybe next time I fly, something gets planted in my luggage. I'm kidding. I think. I have to hope that if there's anything questionable here, the honest agents, the vast majority of them, are asking the same questions and are looking into it. Maybe one of you techies can reassure me that this kind of thing could actually happen with a hard drive. Just an innocent oops. Something relatively common, or at least not uncommon. I do want to add one last thing on this FBI angle. This comes from Reddit, so take it with a grain of salt. I have no idea if this is true. It's reported that, completely by coincidence, an FBI agent was in Delphi the day of the murders on another matter. And when the girls went missing, he jumped right in to help. Now, I try really hard to be careful about what I report. I don't like to inject things into the discussion that don't come from a credible source. And I couldn't find anything else on this. But if true, it's a rather odd coincidence. Delphi is a tiny village of 2,000 people surrounded by equally small villages. The whole county has a population of only 20,000. I would guess the FBI very rarely has any business in Delphi. Before I move on to the strange and troubling case of Darin Schilmiller, there's some more interesting stuff on the gas station issue. Very interesting. We're told Klein Googled the Marathon gas station specifically. Now, if you're Googling for gas stations in a town you're heading towards, you'll just Google gas stations in town XYZ. The fact that he Googled Marathon gas station in Delphi indicates his purpose might have been to meet someone there. Maybe picking someone up or dropping someone off. Here's an article from 2014 in a paper called Journal and Courier. The article follows a homeless man trying to get things back together. While staying in a shelter in Lafayette, which I think is about 45 minutes from Delphi and is the nearest city, the man attained work in the Indiana Packers Corp, which is in Delphi. To get to work, he took a shuttle which dropped him off at the Marathon gas station. The shuttle was operated by a Christian charity called Wheels for Work, based out of the Hope Cathedral Church in Lafayette. It's a service trying to help troubled sorts get on their feet, not just the homeless, but convicts. The shuttle also makes a stop at the Tippecanoe County Community Corrections and brings them into Delphi, where they can apply for work at the Packers Corps. The minister who runs this program, a guy named Kim Dickens, quotes the Bible to support it. A parable in the Gospel of Matthew mentions workers who are idle because no one will hire them. So Dickens says, if I was willing to take them, God had a place for them, and the place was Indiana Packers. At the time of the article's publication, the shuttle transported about 30 job applicants a week to the packing plant. I don't know what kind of prisons are held in Tippecanoe County Corrections, but apparently prisoners needed to attain employment before being paroled. So the shuttle would bring prisoners so they could apply for a job, and it would continue to transport people to work there after they got the job. 30 applicants a week from a prison. The shuttle left Lafayette every day around 2 p.m. Unfortunately, the article is not more specific. What time did the shifts start and end? Did the shuttle make only one run, or did it return at the end of a shift to bring people back to Lafayette? I think the trip from Lafayette to Delphi is about 45 minutes, as I said. So could the killer of the girls have been on that bus returning to Lafayette? The timelines almost match up. In any case, it's alarming that dozens of people were transported from prison to this little town every week. That really seems to expand the suspect list. Now let's get to the bizarre and disturbing case of Darin Schilmiller. Schilmiller is from New Salisbury, Indiana, which is, I believe, about a 3-hour drive from Delphi. In 2019, he was 21 years old. An awkward guy with few friends, he created a fictional online character called Tyler. Tyler claimed he was a multimillionaire from Kansas. As by now most of us know, this is called catfishing. He began an online relationship with 18-year-old Denali Dakota Sky Bremer in Anchorage, Alaska. Schilmiller, under the guise of Tyler, told Bremer that he would pay her $9 million if she raped and murdered someone, and filmed the whole thing and sent him the video live. It didn't matter who they killed. She and her friends could pick the target. Well, they chose a poor young woman named Cynthia Hoffman. Hoffman was allegedly Bremer's best friend. So Bremer recruited 4 of her other friends to help kill this girl. 16-year-old Caden Brian McIntosh, 19-year-old Caleb Allen Russell Leland, and 2 juveniles, 1 male and 1 female. I have no idea what's up with all these really long names. Anyway, the group met in the spring, and with Schilmiller participating online, they selected Hoffman. On June 2nd, they picked up Hoffman, telling her they were going hiking. You can just imagine what it felt like for Hoffman in that car. She must have sensed something was wrong, that her friend was acting weird. But Hoffman was desperate for friendship. They arrived at a place called Thunderbird Falls. After hiking down the bank of a river, they took Hoffman to a clearing and, using duct tape, bound her hands, feet, and head. Through all this, they were sending Schilmiller photos and video. So the young man was getting off on the fact that he had tricked these distant people into killing someone for no reason other than his entertainment. Hoffman must have felt growing panic as they bound her up. Maybe she didn't even resist at first, believing it was a game. But once they had her fully bound, they shot her in the head and dumped her into the river. It didn't take police long to solve the case. Arrests of Bremer and her assistants happened in 2 days. And soon they tracked down Schilmiller in Indiana. According to the FBI, Schilmiller and Bremer were both charged with the production of child pornography. I have no idea what that involves, since apparently Hoffman was not raped or sexually assaulted, and she was 19, not a child. So I'm not sure what else they were involved with, and that's something that people could be interested when thinking about Delphi. I didn't find any reason to connect this to the Delphi case. Schilmiller would have been 19 when the girls were murdered, but as I said, he lived 3 hours away. Could he have tricked someone into killing Libby and Abby? Maybe, but I don't see any evidence for that. It seems like Schilmiller was kind of an idiot, so police probably have poured through all his communications. However, I do think the case adds a little to our understanding of catfishing. Catfishing can be more complicated than just someone using a fictional internet identity to meet people, or as a way for men to trick underage girls into sending compromising photos, or even worse, meeting them. In the Schilmiller case, we also see something else disturbing. We see a small group of teens working together to commit murder. What kind of phenomena are we looking at? There are a lot of cases where multiple teens get together to commit murder. Well, there are different elements that seem to be at work. There might be a degree of psychopathy in the leader of the group. Other kids involved might be more sociopathic, kids from very troubled backgrounds. There's also the issue of group dynamics, and teens have a tremendous need to find identity within a group. And the human brain doesn't reach full development until we reach our early 20s. I'm not a psychiatrist, but it seems probable to me that certain parts of our mental capacity are not yet fully developed. That might include our ability to empathize with others or to fully grasp the consequences of our actions. With Delphi in mind, the Schilmiller case does expand our understanding of catfishing. It can involve much more complicated schemes. Keegan Kline has reported that others shared the Anthony Schatz account he created to catfish underage girls. Claims it was his dad who shared the account with him. I guess what's crucial is whether law enforcement can track down all of Kline's online communications. My understanding is that once an app is deleted from one's phone, communications using that app are gone. If so, it's possible that we don't know everyone Kline was communicating with. So let's sum up this episode and my current thoughts on the case. Keegan Kline communicated with Libby through his character Anthony Schatz on the morning of the murders. He Googled the Marathon gas station in Delphi. The Indiana State Police recently finished a massive effort to search a river near Keegan's home. We're told he's been transferred to state police custody. Presumably, he's cooperating. All of that strongly suggests Kline is involved with the crime, but might not be the actual killer. That would make him some level of accomplice. The FBI's destruction of the surveillance footage from the gas station troubles me. The FBI also seemed to be steering the investigation towards Ronald Logan, the man whose property the girls were found on. This seemed to have the unfortunate effect of misdirecting the investigation away from Kline, a lead which should have been pursued more vigorously early on. I don't want to go down any conspiracy road. I don't want to draw any conclusions that are highly improbable. But the longer this case goes strangely unsolved, the possibility that involves something more complicated lurks and looms in the background like an angry, menacing thundercloud. We hope the storm will pass, but there's a feeling of anxiety until it does.